Hey, one thing, this is Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, so I'll get in trouble. Hey, I said it on ESPN, you probably didn't hear it yet, but Coach emailed me this morning and told me we were going to win. All right, so Coach, we have a game ball for you. That's really for everybody that played for you.
You got the game ball.
Don't paint it up, don't paint it up. Just don't hit it with a golf club, Coach.
You're listening to The Main Event with Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn on WHIP.
Welcome back, everybody. This is WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia. You're listening to The Main Event. Zach Gelb here with you. Flying solo, taking you up until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour comes your way. Now joining us on the hotline as we celebrate this Temple victory over Penn State for the first time in 74 years is a college football Hall of Fame coach, coached at Navy, and of course here with Temple, where he had 80 wins as the head coach, and that's the most in program history. And that is the legendary head coach in Wayne Hardin. Coach Hardin, it's Zach Gelb here on Temple's campus. Thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we just played that clip right before you came on air, and that was a special moment as Matt Rule left Lincoln Financial Field on Saturday with that victory and came up to you and said, hey, Coach, don't hit this game ball off the tee when you go golfing, and he gave you that game ball. What does that mean to you after all these years of waiting to see Temple take down Penn State, and you get the game ball from Coach Matt Rule?
Well, we had to get somebody from Penn State to get the job done. And we kind of ran Joe Pa in there, too. And we figured he would take care of one of his players. And the whole thing turned out great. But the greatest thing I got through it was a sold-out crowd. They said it couldn't be done. Temple couldn't do that. And Temple did it.
No question about that, and just to see the growth of this program has really been something special, because in my freshman year, you would never see that amount of people at Temple University for a football game down at the Link in South Philadelphia. But every time we talk to a former Temple football player that played when you were coaching, your name always comes up, whether it's Joe Klecko, Steve Joachim, and the many great Temple football players that played here at this university. You last coached Temple in 1982, and you're still at these Steve Conjar tailgates. What does it still mean after all these years for you to still be beloved by your former players?
Well, that's the coaching business. I treated them all like my sons and made sure that they were healthy and happy and winners. And it hasn't changed. We have a mutual great feeling about each other.
So what Coach Rule told me was before the game, he went through his emails and he saw in the morning that you sent him a note saying they were going to win the football game. It's been 74 years. It was a long time coming. Why did you think that this was ultimately the year that Temple was going to take down Penn State?
Well, I kind of look at it that Matt has really turned into a real fine coach. He's got good material on the field, and I had a little conversation with Joe Pa, and he felt the same way I did, that it was time for the Temple to win.
Matt has done really just such an impressive job with this university. His first year only had 2 wins. Last year they get to 6 and get snubbed out of that bowl game. And this year they're off to that 1-0 start. He's a special coach. He brings great players here through recruiting, and he just brings a good vibe here to this university when talking about Temple football. But you've been in this coaching business for a long time. When you see a young coach like Matt, what's one of the first things you look for in a young coach that makes you say, hey, this guy's going to be a successful football coach?
Well, he's involved with what he does. He studies, he works, he puts it all together, and he's become a great coach on the 60-minute period of the game. Most of the coaches turn everything over to assistants, and you don't get the vibes from a guy that's really the leader. And he's developed that, and I'm sure that everybody is responding to it.
A big word when Steve Addazio decided to bolt to Boston College. Temple was looking for a consistent head coach. You had a lot of consistency here at Temple. Like I mentioned, you had 80 wins, which is the most in program history by a coach. What's your philosophy on building a consistent program that works both on and off the field?
Well, it's nothing like winning.
That's true.
And that kind of gets people together. But I think the dedication, I have a great deal of fondness for Temple. They have done a great job in academics, and the campus has changed dramatically. The practice field is far above and beyond what it was when I was here. And they got a building built extra on the new facility, and Tony McIntyre is a ringleader to get my name on it, and I'm very proud of that.
It was such a thrill for me being able to call the game on WHIP radio and give the audience everything that was going on through the radio at the scenes down at Lincoln Financial Field. And then after the game, I got to talk to head football coach Matt Rule and the athletic director Pat Kraft. But when I was leaving that stadium, Coach, my grandfather called me and he said, Zach, and he went to Temple University. He said, Zach, the last time I went to a Temple-Penn State game, the final score was Penn State 7, Temple 6. So I did some research and I looked back at it and I saw the year was 1944. So it definitely was a long time coming, 74 years like we mentioned it. But when you sat in that stadium and you saw the time tick away on Saturday and you got the 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and then finally won, and then it finally happened, what was going through your mind, Coach?
Nothing really. I was just thrilled with the way they played, and they come up with 10 sacks on defense, and there wasn't any question that the game was won long before the final whistle. I was in a box with about at least six Penn Staters, and they left in the middle of the fourth quarter.
How about that? It was a beatdown as we're talking to the College Football Hall of Fame coach Wayne Hardin. Zach Gelb here with you, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. That was an impressive performance on defense. They were down 10-0, and then boom, they had that big stop, and then eventually that 93-yard drive. Have you ever seen a football game, though, like that, where a defense allows the first 10 points of the football game, and they just dominate the game and finish with 10 sacks?
Yes. Playing at the vet, we played against Syracuse. I was playing for my 100th victory, and we were down 14-0, and they hadn't even finished the Star Spangled Banner. And it turns out that we got going and everything was worked out, and I think the final score was 47-17.
Wow, that's great. And all good coaches, they have to have special players. Half of it is the coaching battle and implementing your system, and the other part is just having really good players that are dedicated. I don't think it gets any better than Tyler Medikevich. What kind of player does Tyler Medikevich remind you of out of all the guys that you've ever coached?
Well, it's hard for me to evaluate him because I don't get to see him very often, and I don't have an opportunity to watch practice and get their techniques and so forth, and I just get a game here and a game there, and the whole squad I was impressed with, but I was really impressed with Matt Rule.
Before we let you run, Coach, last year Temple opened up the year with the big-time win up against Vanderbilt, an SEC team. They won the game, I think it was 37-7, and then the next week they allowed over 500 yards to Navy, and it was just a letdown. If you're speaking to that team before the game, let's say on Saturday when they go play Cincinnati, what would you say to that team? How do you move on from a big win and then focus on the next game?
Well, it's a spark plug. And the guys know they can win, and I'm sure Matt's going to concentrate on his team, not their team. And there's no question in my mind that they will give him 100%. And that's all he can ask for.
Final one here with the College Football Hall of Fame coach in Wayne Hardin. You coached some really good players. We had Steve Joachim on last week, and he won the 74 Maxwell Award here at Temple University. And then you obviously coach Roger Staubach at Navy, who won the Heisman and the Maxwell. When you take a look back and really just remember your time from coaching Staubach and Joachim, what memories come back to mind?
Well, they did their job, but they had a lot of help, both of them. And I can't tell you how happy I've been having the opportunity to coach such great kids. On and off the field, they have been super. And I trying to come up with a better answer, but that's about as good as I got.
Now, Coach, before we let you run, I know it's a little bit rainy here in Philadelphia today. I don't know how the weather is by you. You playing some golf today?
I'm looking out my back window at Manufacturers Golf and Country Club, where I've lived since 1980. And if it rains a little bit, it's fine. And when the rain lets up a little bit, I'll go out past the fence and chip and putt a little bit.
Well, when it's breezy, swing it easy, Coach. Hit him straight. We appreciate a few minutes. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
There's the Hall of Fame coach in Wayne Hardin. Always fun to talk to a legend. And that's a guy that's seen it all here at Temple University. And they're just moving in the right direction, led by head football coach Matt Rule. He brings a certain passion to this university, and it's just a completely different culture. That's a big part when you have a new coach come in here. And that's why I give a coach usually 3 years before you start critically judging them, because it takes time, especially in college with all the recruiting and what the previous coach has done to build that culture. And Matt Rule has built a special culture here at Temple. And before the game, if you would have asked me how many Penn State fans compared to Temple fans would be there, I would have thought there'd be more Penn State fans. But just to continue to see the video and sit in my spot that I was at the press box at Lincoln Financial Field in the broadcast booth, which is just above the 40-yard line, you looked out and it was just a sea of red. And that's something that didn't happen 4 years ago. This is a football team that has a legitimate shot to do some things that we'll remember for a long time. And now you get to Cincinnati. That's the next game. And in the offseason, I found it so interesting that, yeah, we want to play Penn State. We want to beat Penn State. But the next week, you'd hear the coaches say, we have Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is a conference opponent. So there's been a big emphasis on this Cincinnati game. And none of these seniors have beat Cincinnati. That's going to be a raucous atmosphere in that new stadium, because I know they opened it up last week, but this is the real open up when you go up against Alabama A&M and blow them out. So that's going to be a packed house. If Temple's going to win that football game, and that defense did a really good job last year up against Gunnar Kiel, and they only put up 6 points on the board. That's a Temple offense. But Gunnar Kiel, I think, had 13 points in that game, only one touchdown pass. And Temple got put in some bad field possession, if I remember correctly. But that defense knows how to get after Gunnar Kiel. This defense is the real deal, folks. I was reading some article today. They could be a letdown, could be overrated. No, this defense is good. They got a lot of depth on this team. It's not just 11 guys playing. They got 16, 17, 18 guys playing. You really have to study the two deep when you look at the Temple Owls. Now, P.J. Walker went on that big 93-yard drive, and Jihad Thomas was explosive in that football game. Offense going to have another big week this week if they're going to want to win this game. Manage the football. Don't have turnovers. And your defense will help you out. That's the key, really, for Temple. Win the battle in the trenches. And I know that sounds cliche, but look what happened last week. And just have the quarterback protect the football. It's nothing really complex here at Temple. It's a simple formula to winning games. We'll see if Temple could start their year off 2-0, or if they will be 1-1 heading into Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, the following week for a 3:30 tilt up against UMass. 215-204-WHIP is our number. I'm Zach Gelb. I'm here with you up until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour comes your way. And when we get back, we go from the college scene at Lincoln Financial Field to the professional scene. EAGLES Eagles Talk with NJ.com's very own Elliot Shore-Parks right after these short messages. But first, here's Tom Anslin with the WHIP Sports Flash.